Standing at my mother's funeral, I looked my sister in the eye and said, "I know what you did, Rachel, and everyone here is about to know it too. Before I tell you how I got there, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you're going to want to see this one through to the end." My name is Diane, and I'm 44 years old. For most of my life, I thought my sister Rachel and I were close. We grew up in a small house outside Columbus, Ohio, sharing a bedroom until I was 12. We fought like normal sisters, but when it mattered, we had each other's backs. At least, that's what I believed. Our mom, Carol, raised us mostly on her own after our dad passed when I was 16. She worked 2 jobs, cleaned houses on weekends, and still managed to put both of us through community college. Mom wasn't rich, but over the years she saved. She invested a little. She turned a modest life into a modest nest egg. By the time she got sick, that nest egg had grown into something real, something worth almost $400,000 between her savings, her house, and a small investment account she'd built with an old coworker's advice. Rachel had power of attorney. It made sense at the time. Rachel lived 20 minutes from Mom. I lived 3 states away in North Carolina with my husband and 2 kids. When Mom's health started declining 2 years ago, Rachel stepped up. She took her to appointments. She managed her medications. She called me every week with updates. "She's doing okay today," Rachel would say. "Tired, but okay." I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? She was my sister. I flew up every few months to help when I could, but I always felt guilty that Rachel was carrying the heavier load. So when she started hinting that Mom wanted to simplify things financially, I didn't ask too many questions. When she mentioned Mom had signed some new paperwork for convenience, I told her that sounded reasonable. When she said Mom wanted to keep things easier to manage by consolidating accounts under Rachel's name, I said okay. I trusted her. I trusted my sister with our mother's entire life savings. Looking back now, I can see the moment it started. It was a phone call in March, almost a year before Mom passed. Rachel's voice had this strange edge to it. Overly casual, overly smooth. "Mom wants me to help manage things better," she said. "You know how confusing all that paperwork gets for her." I remember pausing. Something in my gut told me to ask more questions, but I was juggling my own life, my job, my kids' schedules, and I let it go. That single moment of silence is something I'll regret for a long time. Over the following months, Rachel became harder to reach. Calls that used to happen weekly became bi-weekly. Updates got shorter. "She's the same. Nothing new. Don't worry, I've got it handled." When I flew up for Mom's birthday last September, something felt off, though I couldn't put my finger on what. Mom seemed smaller, quieter. She held my hand extra long when I hugged her goodbye that trip, like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I asked her if everything was all right. "I'm just tired, sweetheart," she said. Rachel's been such a big help. I believed her. I believed all of it. Mom passed away in late January, peacefully in her sleep, according to Rachel. I flew in the next morning, devastated, barely able to function. Grief has a way of clouding everything else. I wasn't thinking about money, or paperwork, or power of attorney. I was thinking about the woman who raised me, who sacrificed everything for us, who was gone. But grief doesn't stop the world from turning. Within days, I had to start dealing with logistics. The funeral home, the obituary, the will. That's when Rachel handed me a folder. Inside was a copy of Mom's will, dated just 4 months before she died. 4 months. Not the will I remembered Mom mentioning years ago. The one that split everything evenly between us. This new one left the house, the savings, and the investment account almost entirely to Rachel. I was left a small keepsake fund, $8,000. Mom wanted to make sure I was taken care of, Rachel said. not quite meeting my eyes, since I did so much for her at the end. I sat there staring at that paper, feeling like the floor had opened up beneath me. Something was very, very wrong, and that's when I noticed the signature. The signature at the bottom of that, didn't look right. I'd seen my mother's handwriting my whole life, on birthday cards, grocery lists, letters she used to send me in college. Her signature had this distinctive loop on the C in Carol, a little flourish she'd done the same way since I was a kid. The signature on this didn't have that loop. It was close enough to fool someone who wasn't looking carefully. But I was looking carefully. I didn't say anything to Rachel that day. I just folded the paper, put it back in the folder, and told her I needed time to process everything. She nodded, hugged me, and told me she loved me. I hugged her back, but something inside me had gone cold. That night, alone in my old childhood bedroom at Mom's house, I started digging. I found an old birthday card Mom had sent me for my 40th birthday, 4 years earlier. I laid it next to the will. The difference was small, but it was there. The loop was missing. The pressure of the pen was different too. Lighter, more careful, like someone was trying to copy rather than write naturally. My hands were shaking, but I took photos of both signatures side by side. Then I started thinking about the timeline. 4 months before Mom died. That was right around the time Rachel mentioned Mom wanting to simplify things. Right around the time the calls got shorter. Right around the time something shifted. I called my husband Marcus that night and told him everything. He's a calm guy, not prone to jumping to conclusions, but even he went quiet on the phone for a long moment. "Diane," he finally said, "you need to talk to a lawyer before you do anything else. Don't confront Rachel yet. Not until you know what you're dealing with." He was right. I needed proof, not suspicion. The next morning, I made an excuse to stay in town a few extra days, telling Rachel I wanted to help sort through Mom's things. Really, I was looking for anything that could confirm what I feared. I found Mom's old address book with names of people from her life. Her longtime hairdresser, her neighbor Pam, and her financial advisor, a man named Robert Hensley, who Mom had worked with for over a decade at a small local firm. I called Robert the next day, using the excuse that I was helping settle Mom's estate. He was kind, clearly saddened by her passing. But when I asked him about the new will and the account changes, his tone shifted. "Diane, I haven't spoken with your mother in almost 8 months," he said. "Rachel called me last spring saying your mom wanted to move her accounts to a different advisor closer to her house. I sent the paperwork over, but I never spoke to Carol directly about it. I just assumed Rachel was relaying her wishes." My stomach dropped. Mom had worked with Robert for 10 years. She trusted him completely. She wouldn't have switched advisors without talking to him herself. Not unless someone did it for her. I asked Robert if he still had any of the original paperwork. Anything with Mom's actual signature from before the switch. He said he did, and he agreed to email me copies. That night I compared everything. The original account documents from 2 years ago had Mom's real signature, the one with the loop. The new will, the new account transfer forms, they all had that same slightly off version. Someone had been practicing my mother's signature, and it wasn't her. I thought about confronting Rachel immediately. Every part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, to shake her until she told me the truth. But something held me back. If Rachel had done this, if she had actually manipulated our sick, trusting Mother into signing over everything or forged documents entirely, I needed more than gut instinct and side-by-side signatures. I needed something undeniable. I remembered Mom mentioning, months earlier during one of our calls, that she'd started keeping a journal after her diagnosis. Just to get my thoughts out, she'd said. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now it felt important. I searched her bedroom carefully, checking drawers, her nightstand, the closet. Nothing. Then I remembered the storage bin under her bed, the one she used for old photo albums. I pulled it out and found, tucked beneath a stack of photographs, a worn spiral notebook. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first few pages were simple reflections about her illness, her fears, memories of Dad. But then, about 2/3 of the way through, an entry from 8 months earlier stopped my heart. Rachel brought papers again today. She says it's to protect me, to make things easier if something happens. I don't fully understand what I'm signing anymore. My head isn't what it used to be with all these medications. I trust her. She's my daughter. But something about the way she rushes me to sign feels wrong. I should call Diane. I should ask her to look at this. But Rachel says not to worry her, that she's busy with her own family. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. I sat on that bedroom floor and sobbed. My mother had doubts. She wanted to call me, and Rachel had convinced her not to. I kept reading. Entry after entry showed the same pattern: confusion about paperwork, subtle mentions of feeling rushed or pressured, and always, Rachel telling her not to bother me. The final entry, written just 3 weeks before she passed, broke me completely. I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel like I'm losing track of my own life. I hope Rachel is doing right by both of my girls. I hope Diane will understand, whatever happens. That was it. That was the moment I stopped grieving quietly and started planning. My mother had wanted to call me. She had doubts. And Rachel had taken that choice away from her. And from me. I photographed every page of that journal. Then I called an estate attorney recommended by a friend. A sharp, no-nonsense woman named Attorney Patricia Osei, who specialized in elder financial abuse and estate disputes. I sent her everything. The signature comparisons, Robert's email confirming he never spoke to Mom directly, and photos of the journal entries. Patricia called me back within 2 days, her voice serious. Diane, what you have here isn't just suspicious. This looks like a strong case for undue influence and possibly forgery. If the signature analysis holds up with a forensic document examiner, you could have this one thrown out entirely. And depending on what else we find, this could go beyond civil court. I asked her what she meant. If Rachel forged legal documents or coerced your mother while she was cognitively impaired, Patricia said, that's not just a family dispute anymore. That's potentially criminal. I sat with that for a long moment. Part of me still loved my sister. Part of me kept hoping there was some innocent explanation. But another part of me, the part that had just read our dying mother's private fears about being pressured and rushed, that part was done making excuses for Rachel. The funeral was in 4 days. Rachel had already started acting like everything was settled, mentioning plans to sell the house, talking about a vacation she wanted to take once things calmed down. She had no idea what I knew. Patricia and I came up with a plan. We would file the necessary legal motions quietly, without tipping Rachel off, so she couldn't destroy evidence or transfer assets further. But I also decided something else, something Patricia advised against, but that I felt I owed my mother. I wasn't going to let Rachel stand at that funeral, pretending to be the grieving, devoted daughter, while accepting condolences for a woman she'd betrayed. My mother deserved the truth to come out, and I decided the funeral, surrounded by everyone who loved her, was exactly where it needed to happen. The funeral was held at Mercer Family Funeral Home, the same place we'd said goodbye to our father almost 30 years earlier. Family friends filled the pews. People who had known Mom for decades, neighbors, her old co-workers, cousins we hadn't seen in years. Rachel sat in the front row, dressed in black, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, playing the part perfectly. I had already filed an emergency motion with Patricia's help 2 days earlier, requesting the court freeze the estate accounts pending investigation. Rachel didn't know yet. The paperwork hadn't reached her. I wanted to tell her myself, in front of the people who deserved to know the truth about who had really been caring for our mother in her final year. After the service, during the reception in the fellowship hall, people were sharing memories, eating finger sandwiches, doing what people do at these gatherings. Rachel stood near the dessert table, accepting hugs and sympathy from Mom's old friend Pam. I walked over, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I had the copies in a folder tucked under my arm. Patricia had told me to stay calm, to stick to facts, not accusations. "Rachel," I said, "can we talk for a minute? Somewhere quiet?" She smiled that same smile she'd been wearing all week. "Of course. What's going on?" I didn't take her somewhere quiet. I stayed right there, near the dessert table, where Pam and 2 of Mom's other close friends could hear. "I know about the will, Rachel," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I know about the account transfers. And I know Mom didn't sign that paperwork herself." Rachel's smile faltered. "Diane, what are you talking about? This isn't the place." "I think it's exactly the place," I said. "Mom kept a journal, Rachel. She wrote about feeling pressured, about signing papers she didn't understand, about wanting to call me, but you telling her not to bother me." The color drained from Rachel's face. Pam, standing just a few feet away, had gone completely still, her eyes wide. "You have no idea what I sacrificed taking care of her," Rachel said, her voice rising, sharp and defensive. "You were 3 states away living your perfect little life, while I was here every single day." "You're right," I said. "I wasn't here every day. But I never would have used that to steal from her." Robert Hensley told me he never spoke to Mom about switching advisors. "You called him. You set that up. And the signature on that will doesn't match a single document she signed in the last 20 years. By now, several more people had noticed the tension and drifted closer. That particular quiet that falls over a room when something serious is happening. "You're going to humiliate me at Mom's funeral over this?" Rachel hissed. "I'm not humiliating you," I said. "You did that yourself. I just refuse to stand here and let everyone believe you were some devoted daughter while you were forging her signature behind her back." Rachel's composure cracked completely. She wanted me to have more. I was the one dealing with the doctors, the medications, the bad days. You got to visit and play the fun sister while I handled everything hard. "Then why does her journal say she felt confused and rushed?" I asked quietly. "Why does it say she wanted to call me, but you told her not to worry me?" The room had gone almost silent. Pam stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Rachel, is this true?" Rachel didn't answer. She just stared at me, her jaw tight, tears welling up that looked nothing like grief and everything like panic. I told her calmly that the estate accounts had already been frozen pending investigation, and that a forensic document examiner would be reviewing the will and transfer paperwork. I told her I hoped, for her sake, that there was some explanation I hadn't considered, but I already knew there wasn't. Rachel left the reception soon after, practically fleeing to her car, while several of Mom's old friends watched in stunned silence. I won't pretend it felt good. Even after everything, some small part of me ached watching my sister walk away like that. But a bigger part of me felt like I'd finally kept a promise to my mother, the promise to hear her, even when she couldn't speak for herself anymore. Over the following months, the forensic examiner confirmed what I already knew. The signature on the will was not a match. combined with Robert's statements and the journal entries documenting Mom's confusion and pressure. The court invalidated the will entirely. Rachel avoided criminal charges by agreeing to return the misappropriated funds and assets, distributed according to Mom's original, valid will from years earlier, split evenly between us. But the money was never really the point. It was making sure my mother's real voice, the one in that journal, the one that doubted and worried and hoped Rachel was doing right by both of us, finally got heard. Rachel and I haven't spoken since. Maybe someday that will change. Grief does strange things to families, and betrayal even stranger ones. But I sleep better now, knowing I didn't let her rewrite my mother's final wishes, or her final year, into a lie. If this story moved you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to fight for the truth in your own family? Hit like if you believe justice matters. Subscribe for more real stories like this one, and I'll see you in the next video.